So now what I'm thinking the best next step would be let's actually go ahead and do the shock tower and shocks. So we're going to take these two screws out of the back here. Try to keep that together. And this one here. Okay, and then it's likely we have, oh, hang on. There we go. Two screws right back here. So these two actually hold the shock tower to the back of the bulkhead, so we'll use those on the new one right away. So we've got this turned around right now, so we're going to turn this one around to match. Then we're going to grab our RPM shock tower. And get this mounted on. So it goes right here, uses these two screws down here. We'll get that screwed back into place. Alright, so there's that. And then next we can go ahead and take our shocks off. We're going to flip this around and flip this around. Keep our screws together. I know it's a little bit of a mess, guys, but if you follow along. Alright, sorry about that jump, you guys. The phone was losing space and losing some power, so I had to get it plugged up. The only thing that we've done differently is we moved the bulkhead away and we took the two screws out of the top of the shock from the stock shock tower and we moved that away. So those two screws there are from the top screws, and now we are going to remove the two bottom ones for the shock out of the stock arms. Okay, there's that one. And this one. Now remember, the RPM ones came with two new ones, so we'll use those. We'll go ahead and do this first and get this whole assembly moved over here, and then we'll replace that piece. So just want to get this in place so we can screw in that other side. So that that doesn't move around on us anymore. So if you guys are wondering why we're replacing just this part here and not this piece, they don't make one that actually fits perfectly to the Bandit. I think they make it for the Rustler and some other vehicles, maybe the Slash as well. Or maybe it's the Slash and they don't make it for the Rustler / the Bandit. But either way, we're going to be left with the stock piece right here. For now, I think you can modify the Slash one to make it work for the Bandit, but I didn't want to make any unnatural modifications. I just wanted this to be a simple swap. So now from here, we're going to remove this pin down here. It's going to free this piece up, and that takes up to 2mm. And these pins do bend oftentimes in crashes, so be mindful of that. But here we're going to take our front bearing carriers. And here we are going to want to use those new bearings. And the pin goes right back through the bottom. Okay, so with that, the entire front is finished. So let's grab the car, let's move this stuff out of the way. I'll grab the front of the vehicle and we're going to reinstall the steering links. So you can see how that just kind of rotates in. Alright, so now we've got our pins here for the wheels. We'll slide that through the back. Make sure you don't pop the bearing out. Our little washer and the pin. And finally the wheel can be popped back on. And you don't want this to be over tightened. See, that's too snug. When you go to spin the wheel and it doesn't spin, you just back that off a little bit. That's why it's a locking nylon nut. Go a little bit more. Perfect. All right, same thing on this side. There, the front is finished. So definitely gonna be a lot tougher and ready for some good bashing. So let's go ahead and do the rear. As far as the rear, we're keeping the stock shock tower, and that's because I'm not, the RPM one doesn't have these holes here to put the stock wing and body mount back on. So if you were going to swap this over and put a regular sized body on, not the Bandit body, but maybe a Slash body or I'm sorry, Rustler body, or maybe some kind of aftermarket body, then you can use that shock tower. But since we're using the stock body, I'm going to keep the stock shock tower. So for the rear, we've just got these two arms and then the bearing carrier for the rear. So let's go ahead and get these rear tires off. So the camera did run out of storage, so I had to move everything over to the computer, and that was in the middle of doing this right side. So that side's done, but the left side is going to be exactly the same, just reversed. So for the rear, we're going to remove this rear tire, of course. Also, while I'm doing this, I did check to compare the new bearings with the old ones, and they're actually the same size. So I'm not sure why RPM says that these new ones are required, or maybe they're just saying they're not included, because as you can see, here's a RPM one, fits right in there, no problem. So you can reuse your stock ones if you want to, if you haven't ran it that much like me, but it is good to replace your bearings fairly often. If you're going to be all the way to this point, might as well go ahead and replace them, right? So anyways, this is the new RPM one. So I'll go ahead and pop the bearings into here. Okay, wheel off. Just like the front, there's a pin and a little washer. Now this rear does have the drive shaft here, so it's not going to come out. Just keep in mind that if this falls out, you have to, it only goes back on one way. The drive shaft is keyed. So anyways, let's go ahead and remove both of these screws here for the arm, the front one, and then we'll swap out to this 2mm. There's a screw right at the top of this bearing carrier, and then the shock as well. So you can see the drive shaft did go ahead and fall out. So rear arm comes out, and the RPM one, just match it up, put that back on just like that. So we'll put the rear pin on first, Sometimes it's easier if you get it started like this and then slide it on. Get past that wheelie bar. There. And we'll take our RPM one. There's 2 holes here, so you can make that adjustment. Stock, it's in the upper hole, so that's where we're going to put that back. And now we can get the wheel put back on. Okay, so we are done with this quick little RPM build. So just as a recap, we've got RPM front shock, front arms, front bulkhead, axle carriers, and rear arms and rear axle carriers. Rear RPM transmission, which I know I did not do a video on that. I apologize. And we've got the rear RPM wheelie bar mount. So this thing is going to be really, really tough for whenever we go out and drive it again. So if this video helped you guys out in any way, or if it was at least entertaining, be sure to let me know by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. All right, you guys, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. All right, one very quick little thing. These washers were on the inside of the rear bearing carriers. So that is going to be on the inside of the drive shaft before the drive shaft goes through that bearing. So I'm going to have to take the wheel off and put that washer on there. You know what? Let me actually show you guys, just so I don't feel like I've sold you short. Take this wheel off, and this pin, you see this washer is on the outside, so that's correct. What we're missing is the washer on the inside. So easiest way to get to it, remove the bottom pin. And we're gonna have to do this to both sides because I forgot it on both sides. Like that, lift this up, slide the drive shaft out, and this washer is going to go on the drive shaft like this. Okay. Then through the back of the carrier, put the drive shaft back on. The pin back through. Go through the top one. Okay, then the other washer on this side. Pin. Okay. And the wheel back on. All right, I'll do the same thing to the other side so that that is correct, but I wanted to include that real quick because I missed it the first time. All right, thanks again, guys.